Just as a PS to what we can call 3DB's difficult years, let's hear again what Ron Casey had to say earlier.
I think that probably 3DB was just a little slow to adjust to television.
Words worth hearing again, because the man in question, Ron Casey, has made an indelible mark in both radio and television. But in fairness to the 3DB of 1956, when television was about to begin, perhaps television was to blame in more ways than one for a general radio decline. It was taking some of our best people, Eric Pearce, Graham Kennedy, Jeff Cork, Bob Horsfall, Hal Todd, Roland Strong, Jack Little, Ernie Sigley, and on the production side, Norm Spencer and Elf Potter, and many others. 3DB made a bigger contribution than any other Melbourne radio station to this new wonder, television. The first manager of Channel 7 approached Dan Webb to be one of its inaugural announcers. And this was at a time when the legendary Dave Worrell was still manager of 3DB. What was Dave's feeling?
Oh, very unhappy, because I'd been bowling along with a very happy breakfast session. It had been going very well, and I enjoyed doing it. And I didn't ask. I told them, because I'd been in touch with Keith Cairns, and so I said, you know, I had a job lined up at Channel 7, and I was going to leave. Very unhappy. It was the only time Dave got angry with me. He said, well, I hope you come a gutso. And I think I did in some ways in the early days of television, because I didn't do what I wanted to do. I didn't really enjoy television very much in the early days.
Why was Dan unhappy in those early days?
Oh, because I made the break to escape from radio, and I found it was radio with pictures. And nobody had any idea what television was all about. As time went by, I think things came good. There are certain highlights of my years in television, but there are an awful lot of lows.
But didn't Dan have his family to see him through those early days?
The switch to television nearly lost me my kids. It had a horrendous effect on my children, because whenever I went to school with them, or went to, a school fete or something like that, they could not stand the publicity, the autograph seekers. They wanted Dad, they wanted to hang on to my hand and that sort of thing. And we had some very torrid times.
And how was this situation resolved?
Well, I think it's only since they've become adults and we've been able to talk about it openly that it's resolved itself, really.
So there was a price to pay to get into television. Lots of problems, such as Dan's. But it's fact that every second radio man in Melbourne was knocking on the door. He wanted to be on the telly, with a couple of exceptions. John Eden, unlike his friend Dan, didn't want to make the switch. Any regrets?
No, I don't think so, because I always recognised that whilst I was a pretty good salesman, I was nothing to look at. And, my vanity came through the back pocket, and very frequently it was empty. So I was quite happy to go there and do things like the Hit Parade, which was an enormous success. And I thoroughly enjoyed that, but I never ever took television very seriously. But, I was smart enough to know that as it got older and I got older, one of us was going to be exposed as being not too pretty. I mean, I had the roughest head that ever appeared on television, but I could sell, so I took the money, but I was quite happy to concentrate on radio, which I've always loved.
But DB's two biggest stars, Dick Cranbourne and John Stewart, did make the change and took their happy gang to Channel 7, without success. Their former radio producer, Norm Spencer, was now program director at Channel 9. Why did his old radio stars fail on television?
Badly produced. They could have worked, and could work very well. John Stewart was a natural for television. Cranny might have had a bit more problem, but he could have worked him. They tried to make them almost stick to scripts, and that's not their forte. It's like trying to make Graham, or even yourself sometimes, stick to a script. That's not what it's all about. It's getting the personality. They never got the personality out of Dick or John on television. And it was wrong, because both of them had a lot of stage experience.
No one enjoyed more television success than Graham Kennedy in the legendary In Melbourne Tonight. But rumour has it that Norm Spencer wanted Dick Cranbourne originally.
Yes, I wanted Dick at that time. I would have taken him if I could have got him, but I couldn't get him across. And I think I could have made him succeed much more, because we had a great rapport. It took a long while for me to get it, I must say that, because Dick had come up a very hard way too, and through the racing thing and everything else. But we had a great rapport in the finish, Dick and I would have loved to have taken him with me.
Why didn't Dick take the chance?
Oh, he'd been at DB and the Herald. The Herald had an atmosphere about it in those days. No one wanted to leave it. You know, it was like a home away from home, and it was. There's no doubt on that. I always say, I must tell you that I always said that they didn't pay well, but the only time they looked after you was when you were sick or dead.
A lovely line on which to move from the Channel 9 of the late 50s to the Channel 7 of that era. And 3DB was the radio station that gave Ron Casey his grounding in preparation for his magnificent television career, both on and off camera. How did 3DB prepare Ron in those early days?
I think I learnt a lot from Dave Worrell. As I mentioned earlier, he was, I believe, a master showman in the business of radio. And a lot of the rules that were good for radio were good for television. His sense of organisation. He sent me into the program department at one stage to pick music for the breakfast session. And I used to have to go and submit the list every morning. And Dave had a great thing for music in the breakfast session. He wasn't all that keen on on what was the hit of the day. He said you had to give them something that they can hum.
Recently, under circumstances in which usually rumours hum and buzz, like a bolt out of the blue came the news that the old DB boy had retired as General Manager of Channel 7, bringing to an end a 43-year association with the Herald and Weekly Times through its media outlets. How does Ron feel now that the dust has settled?
Oh, I feel comfortable with it now. The heartburn's behind, and there was a bit of heartburn about it. And finally, when I made the decision last week, I suppose you could say at the last minute it was a fairly impulsive one. But I just think that it was appropriate. I've had a very good innings with the Herald and Weekly Times, and I think the whole direction of television is going to be through an upheaval, and there'll be a total new change of direction. I hope that I won't be that far away from the industry, but I just thought it was appropriate that perhaps I should make a change of direction at the same time. It seemed to be the comfortable time to do it.
And this is a comfortable time for me to do something, to pay tribute to the Ron Caseys and the Norm Spencers and the Alf Potters of this world, blokes who went from the turmoil of radio to the tumult of television with great success and with not too many scars. Whether recognised or not, 3DB played a very important role in the pioneering of the medium that was to become its short-term enemy. And so many of our boys proved themselves in both mediums.